Do you ever see a special effects shot in a movie or a TV show and you're like, wow, I wonder how they did that, but also who cares? It was probably green screen or whatever. So this is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for some months, but have been holding off till some decent behind the scenes imagery surfaced for The Mandalorian. Because certain new and innovative techniques from that show make me stop and question a number of significant sequences from the series in general, which in turn led me down a rabbit hole of the history of projection techniques dating back to the very early days of cinema, through to green screen, then back around again. And this all is something that I'd love to share with you. Now, I'm far from a special effects expert. I'm no corridor crew, in that I'm less popular and less knowledgeable. So consider this video the rise, then fall, then rise again of the projection technique as explained by an idiot for people who want to know about this, but also don't ask any follow-up questions because frankly, I probably can't help you. And you know, people often consider that kind of honesty very brave. So if you want to leave a like for that, I wouldn't say no, is all I'm saying. Now, the idea behind rear projection is simple. Highlighted best, I feel, from the 1933 classic, My Big Monkey and Me. In order to make Fay Wray appear in the same shot as the Kong T-Rex battle, first a team, led by special effects supervisor Willis O'Brien, would stop motion animate the battle over several weeks. Then a screen was set up with a projector behind it, with the actor then placed in front of that. A camera then, a cinema camera for movies, would capture the combined elements in real time, giving the illusion that the miniature monsters towered over their human counterparts, giving a real sense of danger and scale. This also afforded the actors the ability to react in real time to what they saw, syncing up everything perfectly when you time this correctly. Now, you need to understand that this was a huge deal at the time. Sure, both rear projection and stop motion weren't new techniques, but they'd never been done this effectively before, and certainly not in combination like this. And off the back of this, rear projection became a staple of cinema. I mean, a lot of it is laughable now, as we watch an actor pretend to control a car like a toddler given a fake steering wheel, but what it did allow was to focus on the acting being captured on film, in a controlled environment, which made it easy to reset for multiple takes. Though to be fair, it's not all actors in toupees who admitted to beating their wives in unconvincing special effects shots.
I don't think it's that bad. I think that it depends entirely on the circumstances and if it merits it.
Some of this early days stuff really holds up. Take the crop duster sequence from Look Out for That Plane. What we got here is on-location footage spliced with rear projection diving into the dirt, culminating in a model of a plane hitting a model of a truck, and then cutting to a real truck and real plane exploding. All of this is timed so well and used to such great effect that you're not really even left wondering how they pulled it off. It's just a terrific heart-pounding sequence featuring a man who should have really already removed his jacket and tie. I mean, look at this. It's far too hot for an outfit like this. Plus, suits of this era, they were all scratchy and stiff and made of wool. You can't run from a plane in something like that. If you are looking for an example a little more fantastical though, Ray Harryhausen's dynamation process is really something to behold. Jason Fights Some Skeletons was released in 1963 and involved actors rehearsing alongside stuntmen in order to learn the movements. Then those stuntmen would step aside and it was actually shot with the actors fighting nobody. Then this footage was projected onto a screen whilst the creatures were animated frame by frame in the foreground, the whole time having this sequence filmed again. Now, there is a bit more to it than that, but what am I, a guy that's good at explaining things? I didn't even know the real names of movies! With, though, the introduction of blue screen, the idea of rear projection went largely out of favour for these chroma key techniques. This new idea had a number of advantages. For one, there's no syncing up of the footage. All that can be done in post. You can have someone go, ah, and then the monster comes in or whatever, you know, movies. And look, even though it definitely started a little wonky and can even appear odd in more modern filmmaking, but if you give special effects shots the time and money, it often results in seamless integration. So much so that a lot of shots you wouldn't even know have employed this technique. The technology is also widely available. Anyone with a green canvas and a decent lighting rig can mock up more than passable results. There are, of course, major drawbacks to implementing this effect, one of which being actors sometimes don't know what the fuck is going on. Unlike rear projection, you have to be able to imagine what is happening around you as opposed to being able to see it. Many an actor has been driven to the point of madness as they shout into nothing, backed by a green screen, in front of a blustering wind machine. Performances often considered wooden, I feel, are less a result of an actor's poor ability and more the fact that green screen acting is an entirely different skill.
It's hard because you take your attention off of the dialogue and sometimes off of what you're doing and just trying to remember, I've got so many different marks and I wave my hand here and that moves there, and that's really supposed to be, you know, a she, and he's supposed to be something else, and that's an alien. You've got so many more variables to play with that's distracting and sometimes lose your place.
The other thing about green screen is, if there's supposed to be a lighting source in the background, that of course is digitally added later, and it's very difficult to get that lighting to realistically bounce off things in the foreground. And this is where modern technology creeps in. But first, a word from our sponsor. Hey, have you heard of rocks? Oh my god, there's so many of them. You throw a rock in any direction, you're probably gonna hit a rock. Get out there, throw a rock. It's literally free, you can eat as many as you want. Okay, so in the mid-2000s, the idea behind virtual sets became more and more popular. It basically meant that you can film motion-captured actors whilst in real time being able to watch them on a monitor and get a sense of how these events are going to unfold. Now, you wouldn't be getting the final render on this, but it would allow you to shoot a largely computer-generated film like you would a regular film with real people and such. That way the camera moves in a way that feels natural and grounded, as opposed to that kind of flying through space camera technique that often feels jarring and impossible. This also became the shortcut to reduce costs on the never-seen-the-light-of-day Star Wars Underworld series from the late 2000s. However, ultimately, this technique didn't reduce costs enough, and this project was scrapped. The test footage shown here also didn't involve mocap at all, but real actors on partial sets blended with virtual environments to a pretty impressive result for the time, and all of this would end up somewhat informing the future of Star Wars, specifically Star Wars TV. But before we get to the Mandalorian, which is, I don't know, I guess sort of the point of this video, I guess, we got to cover a bit more of the tech leading up. Do you remember the movie Oblivion? I was going to give it a fake name, but I feared you weren't going to remember it, so now, you know, hopefully this is easier. Look, I feel it's underrated, but regardless, this movie resurrected an old Stanley Kubrick trick, front projection. As seen in the famous Dawn of Man sequence from 2001, the year 2001 looked nothing like this. I remember, I was there! The scale of this at the time, that being the set and the screen itself, was immense. But Oblivion took it a step further. Taking recorded skyline footage, it was then front projected onto an all-encompassing screen from 19 different zones. This way, like how it was with King Kong, actors had something to react off. And not only that, but it acted as its own light source. With rear projection, as opposed to front projection, the light can be diffused as it's coming from the back of the screen, and it tends to lose some of its luster, especially because you have to film a film projection, and you can really see that when it cuts between shots. However, now, it bounces right back, meaning even the little things, like getting the reflection in an eye, or having an image distorted realistically off glass, this all happens in camera in real time. Because a lot of effort is often spent digitally retouching anything shiny to remove the green or blue screen elements.
Your moment to shine. Except you reflect also the crew and the camera and everything else on the Mars. This is the moment where we bite the bullet. We go for shiny and we do it. And we'll let John fix it.
Which makes me wonder, why would anybody put anything shiny in a movie ever? Probably why we got all those grey and brown movies for like a decade. Front projection though presents its own problems. Namely, where do you hide the projectors? Now it's easy on a set like this, you just tuck them on underneath. But if an actor is standing right in front of it, then none of this works, as you're projecting right onto them. The answer though came in the form of giant LED screens, which only recently became viable because this shit is expensive. You might recognize these from the newer batch of Star Wars films like Rogue One, and often they were limited to things like, say, entering and exiting hyperspace. The Man and His Yoda, however, takes it a step further. Their screen stands 21 feet tall and 75 feet wide. And it's not just for hyperspace and stars and whatever. It's everything. Internal, external. I can't think of a third thing. Really, it's just internal and external. But what am I talking about? Okay, so Werner Herzog's office. That's a big screen. Red Rock Canyon, big screen. Lava River, real lava river. They made it for some reason. Very dangerous. But yeah, none of this is real. There are, of course, exceptions to this, but a shocking amount of this show was shot using this method. Using the Unreal Engine, popularized in video games, an image is able to appear on screen 24 hours after being finalized. And not only that, it doesn't need to be stationary. You see, the images are all three-dimensional, with the screen synced to the camera's movement. So if a camera pivots or zooms, the screen adjusts accordingly adding to the sense of realism and depth. It's usually, though, not just an actor and then the screen behind them. Objects are added to the foreground to help blend the two together. And again, because you have the advantage of real-time lighting bouncing off onto everything in the foreground, it all blends together nicely, which means the green screen is dead! Except long live the green screen. The green screen is not dead. Because of course it's not. You try telling any YouTuber that who's standing in front of one, making arguments for why another YouTuber sucks. It also has some advantages that LED doesn't. For shooting quick pickups, for example, that means like you're missing something from your movie. Throw up a green screen, put the actor in front of it, get them to say whatever they need to say. This moment from Endgame, filmed very late in the day on green screen. Or maybe you don't have a finalized idea of what's supposed to appear behind an actor. This way you got a bit more time to sort that out. All of these ideas though, your rear projection, your front projection, your green screen, your blue screens, your LEDs, they're all just different tools in a tool belt of tools used to make movies for an industry that if you took all the money out of it right now, you could comprehensively solve world hunger in a very short time. But you know, we don't do that, and people die every day. What's it like, 1 kid every 10 seconds dies from hunger? 9 million people a year? Terrific! So I guess I'm adding a donation link to something to help stop that below. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I should have ended on something about, you know, movie or TV magic, and, you know, we're just kind of, we're here, aren't we? Who knew? And hey, subscribe to this channel if you want, because there's videos like all the goddamn time. And also I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet. It's on its own channel and on iTunes and whatever. Comes out every Monday morning. We talk about like current movie news and then a topic and such. Come along, give it a listen. All right, I'm going. Goodbye.